Two now. Come on. The top of my leg. The top of my leg. What do you mean? Top of my leg. Okay, I'll do. Take the straps off quick. Shoot! Single one. Really, I'm going to stay.
Eddie, we spoke the other day briefly, but for anyone that doesn't know, you had a serious injury in 2020 while doing the leg press. Do you want to just talk me through what happened?
Yes, so in 2020, the first 2 weeks of COVID, I was training with the goal of competing at the end of the year. So this was March time 2020. Obviously, with COVID coming in, everything was a little bit uncertain, but I had my own gym and I could train in there with on my own, or should I say with my brother? Maybe I shouldn't say that now, but we were. And I was pushing hard, and at the time, I was training legs, and I do have strong legs. And I was leg pressing as part of a program I was coached to do, talking about coaches. And I was getting with some big weight, I was getting too many reps. So I was advised to train harder and hit a lower rep range. So that's bygone me by bygones, not to worry about that. But anyway, at the end of the day, I was leg pressing 650 kilos on a 45-degree angle leg press on bearings. On the ninth or 10th rep, just an absolute freak accident. My right knee gave way as I was controlling the weight back down. So it wasn't as I was pushing up, as I was controlling the weight back down, my right knee gave way. And in doing so, sadly, I lost control of 650 kilograms. And this came down on my pelvis, and my right leg pelvis broke, and the right leg just flopped off to the side. I didn't know at the time, but I had torn adductor longus well away from the bone. I had also torn pectineus and pyramidalis. Pyramidalis and pectineus are smaller linking muscles. One links adductor to the groin, and the other one goes from the groin up into the lower abs. But at the time, I was just in great pain. I think the problem was I tried to push the weight off me, and it did more damage.
Right. Okay.
I do physically, mentally remember the muscles popping off. So my brother, bless him, helped me rack the weight, and at that point, it was like, what do I do? I knew there was some serious damage, but I didn't know what the damage was at that point.
What did you think you'd done as soon as that pain hit, and what was the pain like exactly? Can you describe it?
I think obviously I recorded my working sets at the time for form, not to go anywhere. And this has been uploaded as a full video on my YouTube channel if anyone wants to have a look at this. The video is graphic, but it is there. But there's an option to not watch it or skip past it. But it is quite informative as well. But at the time, I shouted out to my brother, "I've torn my quad. I've torn my quad."
Right.
The pain, I felt the bone snap. The muscles came off so fast that it was called avulsions in the bone. So they just went, pulled off so fast. It broke the pelvis, and that's a pain. It still kind of lives with me a little bit. And I've got PTSD. I can't leg press. I can't squat. And it's there to remember. Yeah.
So first of all, you went to the local hospital. Is that right? Your brother drove you there?
Yeah, my brother threw me back of his car. I think at the time I rang my chiropractor and I had voice call and I showed him the damage, and he was like, "Oh my God, you need to get to hospital." At the time, it was lumped up, but there was no bruising. It was just unbelievably swollen. I don't think any bruising or redness came for about 2 days, which was a bit surreal. But my brother threw me back of the car, took me to York Hospital, carried me in. I mean, there's no exaggeration here. My leg was just flopping off. It was hanging about. There was nothing attaching it to my groin. So he pulled me in, he put me on a seat, and straight away they're there, get out, you haven't got masks on, get out, get out. And it was just a very hostile reception. I'm not blaming anybody or anything. That the world was in disarray, but that is what happened. They told my brother to go. They saw me eventually. I waited a long time. They saw me. They X-rayed me, and they told me at the time that there was no damage. There was no damage to any part of my leg.
Right. So you've gone in there, and your leg, as you've just described it to me, is virtually hanging off, like floppy.
Yeah.
And they have said to you that there's no damage to it.
So yeah, if I'm being honest, it was floppy, but it was starting to harden up. The human body is an
Yeah.
amazing thing, but yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
my whole leg was off to one side.
Yeah.
Yeah, my problem was, mate, is that it just trying to show them. I've showed them the video. I wish I hadn't. I wish I said I'd been in a car crash. I wish I said I'd fallen down the stairs.
Yeah.
Because as soon as I showed them the video, they turned their noses up at me and said, "So it's self-inflicted. So
Right.
this is
Okay.
self-inflicted." I would have felt more confident going in as a heroin addict, and I've done something wrong. I've
Mm,
put something in a bad vein. I think I'd have got better care.
mm.
They also managed to get me in for an MRI scan, and still told me there was no damage.
Wow.
But yet they were happy to pump me full of morphine and strong painkillers
I
overnight.
was going to say they did give you. I was going to ask you about that. They did give you something for the pain, I assume.
Oh, yeah, yeah. They give me something for the pain. I was on oral morphine, and I'll have it written down somewhere. There was some very strong painkilling tablets.
Yeah. So they've given you very strong painkilling tablets to kill the pain for something that has done no damage to you.
Yeah, I think I think I'm screaming the hospital down there.
Yeah.
I don't know if they thought I was being dramatic, but I mean, I think this went on overnight.
Mm.
Um, and then I remember them trying. I mean, maybe it could have been a couple of days. I think it was definitely over a night period into the next day, and they're trying to get me out of hospital. Obviously, the X-rays and scans take a time.
So they kept you
Um,
in. Sorry to interrupt. They kept you in, did they? The first day they kept
yeah,
you
yeah,
in.
yeah. Because I was still being seen overnight, so I wasn't admitted.
Okay. Right.
But the process was quite long. But I remember being behind the curtain, and they come out. The doctor came out, the nurses came out, and I remember him telling me that I just need to go. And if it was that bad and I needed help, the words were they would help teach me how to walk again. So at that point, they've kind of admitted there's damage. But this is the worst bit for me, and I swear this is true. I was on the hospital bed. Hospital beds are quite high up, and they
Mm.
wasn't helping me or anything. They wouldn't let me. But my brother had come back to pick me up. And they're telling me to get off the bed. So I managed, my right leg was bad. I was lying flat. As I tried to get off the bed with my right leg just went boom. And it fell,
Wow.
it's not exaggerated, it fell on the floor. And the pain, mate, was just minging. And they
Wow.
wouldn't help me. So the only way to get out of pain, and it's saying this back is almost like it's quite surreal and it didn't happen. But
Yeah.
the only way to get out of pain was to roll onto the floor off the bed because it's the only way I could get my legs back together.
Right. So and there's a room full of nurses and
Yeah,
doctors, or one or
nurse
two, and
nurse and doctor, yeah. And they
and
give
they're
me
just
some crutches,
are they
they give
just
me another
watching you
mask.
at this point?
Yeah,
Are they
they
just
were, yeah.
watching you at this point, writhing on the floor?
Yeah. I don't know if they thought I was exaggerating it. If they've done an X-ray and an MRI and said there's no damage, then I guess they think I'm exaggerating it. But the point we'll go on to is as soon as I managed, they actually told me if I wanted looking further to go private. As soon as I went private, the surgeon who looked at it went, "There's so much damage here. How have they not seen it?"
So how long was that period before you left the NHS? Before you went private, was it the same day? Was it another
Well, no. So
day
I
or
think as
week?
soon as I got out, as soon as I got out, I was researching where to get this looked at. It wasn't like
Yeah.
I've torn muscles before. I've torn my pec. I've torn my quad.
Mm,
It wasn't. It obviously, my leg was mangled. And then at this
mm,
point now that I was black, mate, I was black from my knee, my calf, up my abs into my chest. It was just
mm,
black and red and swollen. So I managed to get a scan at a private clinic in Leeds, but obviously with COVID, you had to isolate, you had to do tests. So this was kind of a long process. So I think it was about a week later I got a scan. When I had the scan, the guy doing obviously it was all closed off, and it cost me. This
yeah.
ended up costing me loads of money, mate. But I didn't have a choice. But the
Right.
guy doing the scan came to me after he said, "Look," he said, "I am not a doctor." He said, "But I do these scans nearly every day." And he said, "You have got some serious damage and you need some help. You need help now." So I explained to him kind of what had happened, and he was in a lot of shock about it.
I just want to take you back to where you said when the nurse or the doctor said to you that the most they can do is to help you walk again. Hearing those words that I mean, what went through your mind? What did you hear? Did you hear you might never walk again, or you'd need help to learn to walk again? I mean, how did it feel when you hear those?
I heard them say, "If you're still having problems, come back and we'll help you walk again."
Right.
And saying this back to you, almost sounds like it's not real, but it really
Yeah.
was. Yeah.
Did you think there was a risk that you might never? I mean, I assume you were walking at the time, or
Hobbling. I couldn't put any pressure on my right leg.
hmm. So you didn't think it was like a case of you might not walk unassisted or anything like that, or did that message come later on?
At that point, um, at that point, I didn't. I just was just in so much pain. It was when, which we get onto. It was when
Mm.
the surgeon who I agreed to do the work with said, if you don't have this done, you're going to struggle to walk again.
And again, hearing those words,
I was
knowing
minging.
where you'd come
Horrible.
from, how did you feel?
It was horrible because we talked about bodybuilding, we talked about lifestyle changes, and obviously at this point, I was never ever stepping on stage ever again. But there's implications with my children, lifestyle. There was a lot. I had
Did
no
you,
choice. I think before it cut off. Sorry, what it was when I went
mm,
for the scan at the private clinic. The guy doing the scan, if you didn't hear it, said that, I'm not a doctor, I can't give advice, but once he'd done the scan, he said, you've got, so he couldn't understand why the hospital said there was no damage. He said off the scan, he showed me the scan. He said, you've got all this damage. He said, you need help now.
mm.
Not in a year's time, you need help.
Do you think that I mean, I guess it's neither here nor there now, but do you think that the NHS at the time were under pressure just to get people with non-COVID related problems out the door because they were a bit
Yeah.
of a nuisance? Yeah,
I've
yeah.
got
I
to
mean,
be
I don't.
careful what I say because
No, of course, I know. Yeah, me too. But well,
not in either way, but the NHS, whatever with COVID, I mean, whatever people think about COVID,
mm,
what was COVID? I lost two family friends to COVID, but what was
mm,
COVID? Was it flu? Whatever. It was so divided the world. But
mm, mm,
I have to be careful what I say. But York Hospital had no interest in my injury. Yes, they were under a
mm,
lot of pressure. COVID was so fresh. But I
mm,
also think being a bodybuilder and doing it training in a gym also give them as soon as I showed them that video, it was, well, it's self-inflicted. You've done this
mm.
to yourself. How the hell have I done that to myself?
Yeah. Do you think there was a stigma attached knowing that you were a bodybuilder that they thought,
100%.
well, mm,
100%. Bodybuilding and the stigma has such a negative effect in the NHS in terms of other problems. I won't go into this interview, but it is bad stigma. Yes.
why do you think that is? Can you talk about that, or do you not want to get into that?
Um,
Just as we're on that
I think
subject at the moment.
I think with the lengths you've got to go to in bodybuilding and the way the way I think there's a bad stigma to bodybuilding because some people say they're a bodybuilder, and this has been going on for years, and they hit some weights and they get pumped up and they get really aggressive. You're not a
Mm,
bodybuilder until you've done what me and you have done and what other people
mm,
do, and you step on stage. Until you've taken
mm.
yourself. I know people who want to be bodybuilders, and they get to 4 weeks out and they can't do it. It's not
Yeah,
about being physically strong. He's mentally strong. It's just a
yeah.
world, and I think the lengths you've got to go to do this sport we love so much.
Mm,
It's got so many connotations that it's bad stigma. Yeah.
mm. And that you found that stigma completely changed once you'd gone to the private doctor, who was completely the opposite of
Yeah.
what experience you'd had in the NHS.
So I searched doctors, searched who I went, and actually the
Mm,
guy who did the scan recommended me to a Belgian surgeon,
mm,
Professor Schilders from Belgium, who worked out of the Fortis clinic in London.
mm,
He worked in Belgium, he worked in London. This guy I was recommended to, and after one chat, he's a groin surgery specialist. He's worked on some of the biggest names footballers. If you follow football, I don't think I'm allowed to
mm,
mention any names, but he's
mm,
worked on some of the biggest footballers who had groin injuries, groin strains.
mm,
He is a surgeon for them.
mm.
He actually said, "Oh, I've never worked on a bodybuilder before." He was quite excited by it.
All right, that's good.
He taught me through the processes. He was eager to help, and do you know what? He cared. It wasn't from the first moment I knew he cared, but
Mm.
until he'd done the surgery and the after help, I had his private phone number. I could message him any problems. He really, really cared about his work, and he was passionate,
Was there a sense of relief on your part that you'd finally got someone
massively,
that understood?
massively.
And
I can't explain to you emotions because the longer this went on week, oh, the worse it was. I mean, my mental health was suffering. Do you know what? It's
mm,
impacting my mental health even now because it won't get any better. And my leg, by the time it on, my leg was stiffening up, but it was in the wrong
mm.
position.
But how long was it by the time that you got home from the NHS hospital to the first visit to the private clinic? what duration?
Without going through my notes, I
Yeah,
can't fully remember. But from the time of the first visit to hospital, it was just over 4 weeks by the time I had the surgery, which was too long.
right. Okay. And that period in between where you talk about your mental health and things like that, well, how bad did that get? Are you willing to go into that?
Yeah, it was bad. It was bad. I couldn't believe what was going on.
Mm,
And just not having anyone who wanted to help was just mad. And
yeah.
once I went back, once I had the scan, I spoke to the surgeon because this was going to cost me a lot of money.
Mm,
Um, I went back to York Hospital. I wanted to see the surgeon. I waited to see the surgeon, the doctor, and I said, look at this scan. I said, how can you say there's no damage?
mm.
And they said I said, they said there's nobody, they can't help me now because this is the worst bit, because the injury is so severe. There is nobody in the NHS in the country at this time who can do the operation. So they've gone from no damage to so severe.
Right. Okay. I mean, that's pretty negligent, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Unbelievable negligent. But again, um, I'm not saying anything bad. They're under a lot of
No.
stress, but my health I'm a taxpayer. My health is as important as the next person's health. But that's
Mm,
what they said.
mm.
Um, it's so severe. So obviously, I continue doing what I'm doing, and on that, I told them that they told me to go get it done private. I told them I was gonna.
Mm. Yeah.
Somehow, I looked into making a complaint to the hospital, and I looked into making a complaint to York Hospital for negligence, and it got back. It got back to okay, I'm going to say his name, Professor Boyle. It was a conversation heard by my children's mum at the time because I was on loudspeaker, and he rang me like someone out of the mafia and told me that if I wanted help and care in York again, then I should wind my neck in and not think about doing a complaint. And I swear that's true. I was on
Serious.
loudspeaker. My partner at the time heard it, and I said, "What are you, like the mafia or something?" And he said, "If you,
Wow.
he said you need just if you want it done, go private." So I said I was going to look at taking it further. 2 days before actually going in for the surgery, I got a hospital from an Asian doctor in Leeds in Chapel Allerton, which is 35 minutes from my house where I was at the
Yeah.
time. And he said to me, I'm going to have a look at you. I might be able to help. At the time, I'd paid 50% to the private
Yeah.
hospital.
Mm.
And I said, "Don't worry, I'm getting it sorted because you've not helped me." And he said, "Bear in mind, this is a recorded conversation, Mr. Sykes. Are you refusing help from the NHS?" I said, "I'm not refusing help from the NHS." Mate, it was like something. The more I'm telling you it, the more it was like, is this kind of true? But these are
Is this
facts.
happening?
I've got everything written down.
Yeah.
And it was like some sort of mafia thing where they were threatening me. Are you refusing help from the NHS to go privately? Let me get a note of this. No, no, you asshole.
Wow. So this is after they refused to help you, claiming that there was no damage when there clearly was, pumping you full of morphine
Yeah.
for something that had no damage, refusing to help you, and now
They give me
saying to
morphine to
you,
take away. I was
yeah,
prescribed morphine.
okay, that's unusual, isn't it?
So it went from no damage to paid for private, too much damage, can't
Yeah.
help you. 2 days before going in for the surgery, someone rang me and said, "Are you refusing help?" Well, no, I've just paid thousands of
Yeah.
pounds.
Yeah.
So I'm going to honour it.
Yeah. Of
And I'm glad
course.
I did. I'm glad I did because Professor Childers really
Mm.
cared.
Yeah. I mean, you must have been through an absolute roller coaster of emotions.
Yeah.
I mean, did you talk to your how did you talk to your children about your injury? Did they ask you? I mean,
Um,
they used to seeing you big and powerful and strong, and now you're this sort of helpless figure that can't seem to figure out how you're going to take your next steps. Or
they were a bit young.
are
They
they?
didn't like seeing Daddy down and out, but
Yeah.
yeah, they were a little bit young at the time to understand.
Mm,
But yeah, I couldn't really do much. You know, I was
mm.
using a blooming wheelchair to push myself about through COVID.
Were you? You were actually in a wheelchair, were you?
I was in a wheelchair.
Wow.
And
And how did that?
Gary, I couldn't walk. I couldn't
Yeah.
walk. And saying it back to you now, I know I've read this and I've looked at whatever, but it's actually physically saying it to you is like, I
Mm.
can't believe it happened. It's almost like a bad dream.
Well, I'm
And
just trying
I
to.
just want to, I really want to be careful because I don't want to upset anyone with this. But this is factual, so I'm only
Mm.
giving the facts, so I can't be saying
Well, this
anything
is
else.
your, yeah. I mean, it's this is your side of the story, and you're entitled to tell it how you saw it. I mean, I can only imagine the range of emotions went from being in severe pain to going to severe distress, suffering with your mental health and being down, to being absolutely furious that you're being told, are you refusing help from the NHS? So I mean, that roller coaster must have been horrendous.
The mental health aspect, COVID was bad for me. And on top of that, even when I was kind of thick with the gym opening and closing, the stress of losing my business, my livelihood, my livelihood for my children, my family, not being able to work, not being able to earn money. It started off with the pelvis, but by end of COVID, I was prescribed tablets to try and help my head. It was a bad time. But this is the thing with the NHS as well. Tangent here. I was, because my mental health suffered and something happened to me that wasn't very nice, and I seen the doctors. I was prescribed tablets to make me feel better.
Okay.
And to this day now, that has never. I stopped taking. I weaned myself off them, and I use the gym, and I use my daily routine, I use my training and my consistency to sort my head out. Which is why I don't see why everyone in the world isn't training, because it does so much good for you on any level, not just bodybuilding. But to this day now, we're coming into 2024.
Yeah.
The doctors have never called me to have a follow-up conversation about how is it going. They still think I'm taking these tablets. They've never even followed it up. They are so quick to go take this, go take this, go take this, have this tablet.
Yes, they are.
It's a conversation for another day, but it's another thing with the NHS. It's just, yeah. But the thing that got me off the tablets,
Was the gym.
that was in a bad way, was training and working
Yeah.
out and being a bodybuilder again, getting
Yeah.
back on it.
And when everybody needed a bit of help with their mental health or mental release during the period in which you had suffered the injury during COVID, the government shut all the gyms.
Yeah, shut all the gyms. Oh, mate. And there's stuff, even when we opened, mate, there was plenty we could have done. And they cut 3 lockdowns, wasn't it? I think.
By far.
There is so much bad mental health, because I work in the fitness industry, and I have people coming to me. I'm not speaking anywhere unprofessionally. There is so much bad mental health from COVID, and people just can't. You know it, I know it, and people come into the gym. The results become addictive. A healthy addictive bodybuilding is a totally different level, obviously.
Yeah.
But working out the science of the endorphins being produced through the pituitary gland and the nervous system, and just feeling good from working out, there's no price on it.
No, I agree. I absolutely agree.
What we do is seen as extreme, and it is extreme, and it's my passion, and love to help anyone get into it. But I'd always say tread carefully with bodybuilding, tread carefully. But in terms of working out and training, off the back of COVID, my gym, my business, my member is still suffering off the back of COVID. We have never gone back to where we were, and I hope this January is going to boom, and we will. But I can't see why everyone. I just can't see. It's probably a very narrow-minded view, but I can't see why not everyone's working out. I don't go to the gym because I can't be asked. I don't want to. Everyone. What I love about my gym, right? I'm very busy when I'm in there, and I'm booked out with clients. That's amazing. But there's some times where I just get to stand on reception or in my office and look out. And if there's 30, 40 people training there, if there's 5 or 6 people training there, everyone's in there for their own reason. Everyone is in there for their own reason, hitting their own goals, doing their own thing. But a lot of it makes them feel good. I love just chatting to people. I love chatting to people. Oh, why are you in here? What's your story? What's your goals? Oh, there's so many array of people in my gym. It's lovely. There's 14-year-olds, there's 80-year-olds, there's mums and daughters, there's dads and daughters, there's friends. It's such a lovely environment. I just like knowing what people are doing, because we're all in there for the same reason. No matter what level you're at, we're all in there for the same reason.
Well, just taking that then, if you hadn't have been if this private surgeon hadn't have been able to do what he did for you, where do you think you would be now without that outlet?
No idea. Absolutely no idea. I'd hope they got a surgeon to do it, but then the financial, I didn't have private health at the time. The financial implications, I don't think. Well, I had to borrow money, mate. There's people that maybe could have done that, and I just think there's no way I could have been left. There's no way I could have been left. So I don't know. I had dread to think of it.
Well, thankfully, he was able to do something for you. Were you able to tell me a bit more about the surgery itself and how long that took, and what it involved?
So I went in for the surgery, and again with COVID, I'd spoke to this guy on Zoom calls. FaceTime, WhatsApp time. I never met him after all the tests and everything. So I went in a month later. It was May and June. Sorry, I said March. It was May and June.
Mm.
So it wasn't March. So this was all May. So my bad. But I went in. I went in June. I think it was the 17th of June, 2020.
Mm.
So I'd done it on the 18th of May. Um, I went in, met him, shook hands. Because it was private hospital, I lay there and I managed to, because the surgery was going to take 3 hours, 4 hours. I ordered all my meals for when I come out because we made them make the most of it.
Right.
And I went in and I went to see the anaesthetist and I said to the anaesthetist, I was really nervous. Obviously, my children and my partner at the time were waiting at home. And this is the other thing. Sorry, the surgeon had managed to get because he's so highly thought. He got me seen at the Ramsey Healthcare Hospital in Skipton near Bradford.
Mm-hmm.
So out near Leeds. So he had managed to get us sorted to be in there, so I didn't have to go to London. All my follow-up consultations every month were in London, so I mean I had to travel to London for those.
Right.
But we were in a Ramsey Health Hospital out in West Yorkshire, where near Ilkley Moors, really nice hospital. And we went in. I was nervous, and the anaesthetist was going through it, and I said, "Look, I'm really nervous." They put the cannula, and I said, "Look, I don't want to do this." I was chatting a lot because I was nervous. I remember him saying it really clearly. He said, "I'm just going to put this water in to make sure that it's in your vein." Put the water. It wasn't the water, was it? It was the solution.
Yeah.
I was out. I felt myself. You go all warm, don't you? It's going up my arm. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gone. But I remember. I think the surgery in total was 7.5 hours because when Professor Childers went in, as the time had gone on, he'd realised that my adductor longus had
Yeah.
retracted all down my leg. It was attached to my teardrop, my vastus
Good grief.
medialis. So it'd
Yeah.
come down the leg. It was that human body's amazing. It was reattaching itself, but in the wrong place.
In the wrong place.
So I remember during surgery, I remember being aware of what was going on, but then they had to give me more to knock me out. But because it had gone on so long, and they ended up giving me 3 doses of what knocks you out because it kept going. I remember waking up and apparently I don't mean to be, but I was really aggressive. I was shouting for my little boy, "Where's Isaac? Give me Isaac." No
Really?
idea. I had no control of that. So they knocked me out again with morphine this time. But
Oh,
they
did
knocked me
they?
out with so much morphine because NHS can only give so much,
Mm.
but private can give more. So they said, look, I remember them saying, give him morphine. So give me so much morphine through the drip, it knocked me out. So
Mm.
I didn't wake up till 3 o'clock in the morning the next day. I was out of it.
Wow.
And do you know what? All my food was there in my room, just cold. I
Yeah.
couldn't eat it. Not that
All
I felt
right.
like eating it, but I
Yeah,
remember
of course.
seeing all these meals with them posh silver tops on.
Yeah.
But obviously, again, my family thought it was going to take so many hours. So they were panicking. I think I went in for surgery at 1 o'clock. And then obviously 3.5, 4 hours turned into 7.5 hours, I think it was. And I didn't come out until 3 o'clock in the morning. I remember waking up again. I was stark bollock naked in this room where I
Yeah.
didn't know where I was. I was comatose.
Yeah.
And I think the real point of what had happened was that obviously I was bandaged up and scarred, but I woke up naked
Mm.
and I really needed the toilet. And I remember needing the
Mm.
toilet, so I buzzed. And I remember two ladies came in to carry me to the toilet, stark bollock naked. And my what's the correct way to say it? My male part was
Yes.
so black and swollen. I mean, it was massive, mate. So big, right? I wish it stayed like that. No, it got apart. But I remember I went to have a pee and they were holding me up, and I was peeing everywhere. I was literally
Oh,
peeing all
really?
over the floor.
Oh,
So
no.
this nurse, bless her, had to hold my penis and point it into the toilet. But at this point, I said, this is one of the lowest points of my life. But they made a joke saying, well, we don't mind because it's normally like loads of old men that come in here for surgery. So
Oh,
it
right.
was a
So it
bit
was quite.
refreshing to have someone. Go on.
It's refreshing to have a younger one to hold.
Apparently so. Apparently they made a bit of banter about having someone younger to it in that hospital. But I
Right.
remember that, and then they put me back in bed. And it was just like, wow. And then the next day, because of COVID again, they just needed me out, so they made sure I could
Oh,
walk.
really?
They gave me the apparatus to help me walk, and then I was out.
So you were in
I
there
was
just
out to
one night.
recover.
You were in there just
Yeah,
one night,
yeah.
and you had to go.
I paid all that money for one full day, and then one half a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Right.
then the
Okay.
COVID going on, they needed me out. They didn't want anyone in
Yeah.
the hospital basically, and I understand that. But I was fixed, and I went away, and the surgeon kept in touch.
Right.
I mean, I remember, I wasn't very able-bodied at the time, but I remember going
Mm,
to the gym was about to reopen, I think, for the first lockdown. So we had a health and safety representative coming from the council to check we were doing everything. So I got a lift to the gym. I remember going to the gym and I opened the fire door at the back and I went out on these crutches and he was getting really close to me. And at the time we didn't
mm,
really know what was going on. So I was like, I was trying to step back from him.
mm.
But I nettled myself on some nettles.
Oh, really?
I managed to jump. I ripped all my stitches out.
Oh, you're joking.
There was blood and pus everywhere. So then I ended up getting an infection before I could get into hospital the next day. So I went back, they stitched it all back up.
So you went
It was
back
an
to the
ongoing
club.
process. Yeah,
You
yeah, it
went
was an
back to
ongoing
the club.
process. I ended up going to London again, more and more expense.
Mm,
40th clinic in Marylebone in London.
mm,
It was started off every month, then we backed off, and then it went to a couple of months, and it was a 6 month one, and I managed to get signed off. So I signed
and,
off, and the
and-
surgeon said to me, "Go get back on stage. You can
right.
do
Okay.
it. Go do it. Be careful, but I want to see you back on stage."
So was that the first, the final rehab session when he said that? Was that the first time that you'd
Yeah.
spoken about training? You hadn't spoken about
No, we
it at
spoke.
any
We spoke
point?
about training, obviously, all the way through because that's my passion and my love.
Yeah. But was it a case of you're
Don't
not
get me
going to be able
wrong.
to train, or if this surgery
Yeah,
goes
yeah, you
okay,
got.
you
Yeah,
will
there
be able
was
to train?
straight to the point. There was a chance I would never ever be training legs again. There was. He certainly said to me, "You can forget being a competitive bodybuilder."
So what did
But
that? How did
he
that
did.
make you feel?
Oh shit! But the
Yeah.
thing I had to look at that point is like the love of bodybuilding and living a normal life with my children. It's that
Yeah.
fine balance, and I was in
Mm,
a bit of a mess, but he said the main goal was to get me able-bodied again, and then we can look at bodybuilding. But he did.
mm,
He motivated. He's worked on some of the biggest footballers in the world,
mm,
and you
mm.
go in his office, and all around his office, he's got signed shirts and memorabilia where they've all given him. And he said to me, "I want
Wow.
to picture you back on stage." So I've got a
Right.
picture that I'm going to write on there. I'm going to send it to him.
Oh, brilliant. That's
Yeah,
brilliant.
it's passionate story, mate. But
Mm,
I wouldn't be where I was today. And that's why going back this season, if you know anything about me and you're watching this, I hit so many shows because it was the comeback. It was I'm getting
mm,
back on stage. So
mm,
I went in at novice to test myself. I won novice, and then ended up winning 5 separate class one shows.
mm,
And then I came second on NABBA Universe. The NABBA Universe stage is a stage that I never,
mm.
ever, ever thought Eddie Sykes would step on.
Yeah.
To come second and only to be beaten by an Austrian professional bodybuilder who
Yes.
technically shouldn't have even been there.
Yes.
Another story again,
Another story that
which I
we're
know
doing.
you've covered.
Yes.
Was summer. So I kind of found my feet. There's a lot of people talking about me and where I'm going to go and where
Mm,
I could go if I
mm,
want to go. The main thing we after 5 years off stage was the confidence side of it.
mm,
My first 2 shows, my feedback from the judges were, you look great. I mean, I'm not just saying this. Your
mm,
physique's pretty much spot on. You're
mm.
big, you're grainy, you're hard, but
Yeah.
where's your confidence? They're saying, where's your confidence? Well, I've had to explain that. I've come back from
Mm.
this, and there's certain poses that I struggle to get into. So I needed help with
Really?
that because I've got low mobility.
Is that because of the injury?
Yeah, yeah, I've got the ligaments to pull the muscle back into place because it
Mm,
had to come so far out of the leg, and the main adductor were had to be made to fix it in through the bone.
mm.
Um, so there's a lot of implications. But I mean, look, hey mate,
Right.
look, wow, back train. And do you know what? I train legs in a totally different way now. I'll never squat and I'll never 45 degree leg
Mm,
press ever again. But legs for me is just all volume work, and my legs have grown. And hopefully, if you've seen pictures or videos of me on
yeah.
stage this season, then people will see that I've in a non-arrogant way, got good
Mm,
legs. Got good
yeah.
legs,
Well,
and they've grown. They've
we
grown
were on
good
we were
legs.
on stage together in the overall at the NABBA UK. So I
Yes,
remember thinking, this guy's enormous.
I appreciate that. I
But
appreciate
just
that.
when was, I mean, so 2023, the first show of 2023 was your first show since the injury. Is that right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And when was the first training session since the injury? When was the first time you went back into the
Well,
gym to train? How
months
long?
after this, the surgeon, I was going back for tests on strength tests, and he said, "Don't train until I tell you to." He
Mm,
asked me to see a good physio, it's rather than going to him all the time in
mm,
London. So I managed to get a physio who I thought was very good. But they were getting me to do stuff, and the surgeon was like, "Why are you even doing that?" I was after about 6 weeks, I was being informed to do Copenhagen's. Copenhagen's are a plank that you do on the side, but you have one leg on a bench and one leg under the bench. So
Right.
you all the brunt is on your adductor. And I told the surgeon what I was doing is like, do not go back to them. Why? What
Mm.
are they doing to you? So I started to throw. They did give me some very good rehab exercises, which again I think is on my YouTube video.
Hmm.
Band work, resistance work, and
Yeah.
I think, as we all know, when we know our own bodies, I knew when it was
Hmm.
right to start training again, and I did
Mm.
start training earlier than the surgeon told me to, but only very
Really.
sensibly because I think when you invest that much money in somewhere,
Yeah.
you've got to look after it.
Were you apprehensive though about going into the
Well,
gym?
Gary, so apprehensive, mate.
Yeah.
Genuine PTSD. I
Really.
still have it now sometimes.
Really. And
I
was the
think
first session
even when I'm training clients on legs and I'm pushing my clients, I'm still a little bit cautious,
really?
which maybe is not a
Did,
bad thing to be, but I
yeah, I
think,
guess.
and again, not exaggerating, I relived that break. It was at some point in some leg sessions where I kind of talk to myself and I think, oh, I broke my pelvis, broke my pelvis. I don't know why I do it, but it's PTSD.
Do you think that's ever going to ease, or do you think that will be with you
No,
forever?
be with me forever. And I do like a Dorian Yates style training,
Mm.
which I've done, where I just
Mm.
pre-exhaust. I pre-exhaust a leg extension probably every session, and probably some now where I'm training because my hamstring need bringing on a pre-exhaust and a leg kill variation. But so I
Mm.
can't go as heavy on the squatting exercises. But my
Mm.
gym now, because I can't free squat and I won't 45-degree leg press, we've
Mm.
got some amazing leg kit. We've got so much leg kit. People going about how
Mm.
good the leg kit is because I need it for my training.
Right. Well, what is that leg kit? What do you do now? So you have to avoid obviously the leg press, but what is
So
your leg work?
I could leg press, but again, I don't want to leg press.
Yeah.
God, we've got a V squat. We've got three different type of hack. I've got two different hack squats.
Mm.
We've got a pendulum squat. We've got a pivot leg press, which I kind of throw in at the end, but I do it at the end for 2, 3 sets of like 100 kilos, 120 reps. Pump, 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 pump. Off the back
Right.
of the feedback on this season shows, we've got 4 different hamstring exercises, which in any sort of
Mm.
independent small gym is probably unheard of. We've
Mhm.
got 2 leg extensions. We've got a glute kickback. We've got adductor. We've got abductor. We've got a belt squat. We've got
Mm.
a squat high pull. Got loads of leg kit. I love training
Mm.
legs.
Do you still love training legs? Do you, even after what's
No,
happened?
I've always loved training legs because
Mm.
it's a mental battle. You've just the
Mm.
way
Yeah.
we train, you've got to go to lengths that a lot of people
Yeah.
aren't prepared to do. But even
Yes.
now, it's a mental battle. It's more of a mental battle now because there's certain stuff I can't do. And there's
Mm.
even sometimes on a heavy leg press, um, I'm a bit first few reps. Even though it's a pivot leg press, I'm hesitant.
Mm.
But when I
Mm.
come really deep in any sort of squatting variation, I can feel it pulling.
Can you? Does
Yeah,
it?
so I've just got to be careful.
Are you frightened by that? Does it frighten you? Is that too strong a
Yes.
word? Or
No, I'm
mm.
frightened by it. Yeah, frightened by it.
Mm.
I generally, again, not exaggerating. I remember what that break felt like, man. It was just minging.
Mm.
I
Yeah,
felt it. I felt it come off. I felt it come off.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy. I mean, to come.
If
Go on.
go on.
I was just going to
I
say.
was saying a lot. I'll always have that PTSD from it, and I'm not exaggerating at all. I'm a pretty level-headed guy, and I think anyone who
Mm.
knows me knows I'll always be very humble, no matter how well I do in bodybuilding.
Yeah.
I'd like to always be a humble person. I think that's another reason bodybuilding can be quite badly stigma because people do well. It seems to change the persona.
Yes.
But
So.
I'll always be frightened of training legs, 100%. There's
Mm.
no. I'd love to squat again. I used to power lift. I used to squat 260
Mm.
kilos. I'd love to squat, but that's just ugh. To get to the
So,
bottom of a squat with a weight on.
mm.
I tried doing about 100 kilo squats maybe a year, a few months back, and just to think to get to the bottom and something to go wrong, it ain't worth it. It's not
No,
worth it because bodybuilding isn't about being the strongest or lifting the heaviest weights. It's about
no,
building your
it really
physique.
isn't. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It really isn't. And I've heard people say that you can train. I mean, I think Paul Dillett was a famous one for it. People say that he trained like a pussy, but his diet was spot on. So actually, the
Yeah.
training is a very small part of bodybuilding itself.
At the time I'd come out of it, I had a very good conversation with Sasarati.
Mm.
I'm sure he won't mind me mentioning him. What an amazing bodybuilder. His legs are
Yeah,
huge. They're
yeah,
amazing. They are the legs that I think everyone in this industry would look up to having.
yeah.
And he just said to me, he's never free squatted, he's never
Mm.
lifted heavy weights. he obviously the heavy weights because
Mm.
he's a beast. But
Yeah.
he told me he coming out of this injury, he was the first person that helped me, and he probably deserves a mention. That helped
Mm.
me train legs again. He gave me the confidence to, and he gave me some sessions to work towards.
Mm.
I probably owe him
Oh,
for that.
that's good. Eddie, if there's anybody that sort of has a similar injury or any injury whatsoever or any setback, is there one piece of advice that you could give them that you've learned from your experience?
Um, keep believing,
Mm.
keep believing because it depends on the injury, but keep believing because you can with me you can knock me down, but I'll get back up again. Another story, another time. The beginning of this year when I was trying to compete, I ended up with inflammatory bowel disease. It's like I was coming back to compete at the Northeast NABBA in May, and
Right.
come March, I thought I had food poisoning, and I ended up in Hull Hospital for 2.5 weeks, and I've
Wow.
got I've got Crohn's disease. But another story. But you knock me down, and
Yeah.
I'll just keep coming back, and it fires me up. I think
Yeah.
as well that cliche saying, especially in something like this, the comeback is always bigger than the setback. Coming back off the back of what had happened, it just made it all the more beautiful,
Yeah.
all the more
Well,
emotional.
I think Eddie, I for one think it's one of the most fantastic turnarounds that I've heard, and with your determination and spirit, I think we've got big things to come from you in 2024.
Thank you, because I'm motivated. I'm motivated just
Mm.
just for me to be the best I can be. I think that's what bodybuilding is. We all do it, and it's the hardest physically and mentally, the hardest sport I think anyone can put themselves through. But
Mm.
it's just a love, it's a passion, and
Mm.
yeah, I appreciate all the support I get from anybody who sends me a message, likes a social media post.
Yeah.
I appreciate all the support. Definitely, I think
Yeah.
this next year, I wish I was doing what I'd done years ago.
Mm.
Um, and again, what got me into bodybuilding, again, another story, is that in 2017, I had sepsis. I had blood
Right.
poisoning from an abscess in my left shoulder,
Mm.
and I nearly lost my left arm. I have had a real bad turn, but there's good things coming. I'm not going to
Yeah.
dwell on it. But when I got out of hospital then, that was 2017, and I was told that if they couldn't get the sepsis out, they would take my arm off. It was like I was always into my training. It was like, no, I'm going to do something now. So
Mm.
our lives are affected by the events that happen in them.
Yeah.
And if that hadn't have happened, I might have still been twiddling my fingers. And it got me into
Mm.
bodybuilding, and I've never looked
Yeah.
back because it's just a love. It's a love.